Speech organs. The diaphragm. Dome-shaped muscular and membranous structure that separates the thoracic, chest, and abdominal cavities in mammals. It is the principal muscle of respiration. The muscles of the diaphragm arise from the lower part of the sternum, the lower 6 ribs, and the lumbar vertebra of the spine, and are attached to a central membranous tendon. Contraction of the diaphragm increases the internal heat of the thoracic cavity. This lowering is its internal pressure and causing its inspiration of air. Relaxation of the diaphragm and the natural elastic of lung tissues and the thoracic cage produce expiration. The lungs, responsible to add oxygen to and removing carbon dioxide from the blood. Each lung is connected with the trachea by its main bronchus and with the heart by the pulmonary arteries. Each lung is divided into lobes, separated from one another by a tissue fissure. The right lung has 3 major lobes. The left one has 2. Internally, each lobe further subdivides into hundreds of lobules. Each lobule contains a bronchiole and affiliated branches, a thin wall, and clusters of alveoli. Broncho of bronchi. Any of the large airway passages of the lower respiration tract that diverge from the trachea, windpipe, and connect to the lungs. Trachea, tube or system of tubes that carries air. The trachea can stretch and descend with the breathing movements. Larynx, also called voice box, a hollow tubular structure connected to the top of the windpipe. Air passes through the larynx on its way to the lungs. The larynx also produces vocal sounds that prevents the passage of food and other foreign particles into the lower respiratory tracts. As food is swallowed, the whole larynx structure rises to the epiglottis, so that the passageway to the respiratory tract is blocked. After the food passes the esophagus, the larynx relaxes and resumes its natural position. Vocal cords or folds represents the chief mechanism of the larynx. It is in its function as a valve for opening the airway for breathing and close it during swallowing. The space between the vocal cords is called glottis. When the vocal cords are separated for respiration, the glottis assumes a triangular shape with the apex at the anterior commissure. During phonation, the vocal cords are brought together so they lie more or less parallel to each other. The glottis, either the space between the vocal fold and arytenoid cartilage of one side of the larynx and those of the other side. The epiglottis. It is an articulator in the production of pharyngeal consonants and in the vowel A. It is also involved in whisper. Epiglottis articulates against the posterior pharyngeal wall. The construction varies from a full closure in a slow, careful speech through a narrow opening of fricative edge and other examples. Controls the traffic of air and food. The pharynx. It provides an enclosed space that allows the speech muscles to initiate sound and pronounce syllables better. The lining of the pharynx secretes mucus to lubricate the pharynx and helps in smooth propulsion of food down to the esophagus and reduce throat irritation. Nasal passage is used for the production of nasal sounds. The nasal cavity is combined acoustically with the vocal tract when the velum is lowered. The velum or soft palate performs two important roles in speech. The tongue body hits it in order to make the sounds g and it acts as the gatekeeper to the nasal cavity. In the speech, the velum is in its raised position, blocking off airflow through nose. Consists in a muscle and connective tissue that forms the roof of the posterior rear of the posterior portion of the oral cavity. The soft palate, along with the hard palate, form the palate or the roof of the mouth, which separates the oral and nasal cavities. Oral cavity or mouth orifice through which food and air enter the body. Its boundaries are defined by the lips, cheeks, hard and soft palates, and glottis. It is divided into two sections: the vestibule, which is the area, the cheeks and the teeth and oral cavity proper, and the other section is the mostly filled by the tongue, a large muscle firmly anchored to the floor of the mouth by the velum linguae. In charge of the role of the intake and initial digestion of food and is essential in human to the formation of speech. The teeth. Hard white structures found in the mouth, usually used for mastication. The teeth are different. Vertebrate species are sometimes specialized. The tongue. A muscular organ located on the floor of the mouth, is an extremely mobile structure and is an important accessory organ in such motor functions as speech, chewing, and swallowing. The tip of apex. The tip of the tongue is the most anterior and most mobile aspect of the organ. The blade of the tongue, it is the anterior region of the frenulum. The hard palate. It is a horizontal bony plate that forms a subsection of the palate of the mouth. It forms the interior 2/3 of the roof of the oral cavity. The hard palate is comprised of two facial bones: the palating process of the maxilla and the paired palatine bones. The alveolar ridge is a raised, thickened border extending from the maxilla that contains the sockets for the teeth. The alveolar ridge is made up of both soft tissues and hard tissues. The latter consisting primarily of the alveolar bone within Within each tooth socket is a region known as the lamina dura, which is surrounded by alveolar bone. The lips are the soft and pliable anatomical structure that form the mouth.